Hello there. This is a little bit of a range of tips that I've found useful in remote learning to get students to be a little bit interactive. Of course, the main idea of interactivity is to get the students working with one another, but these are just little starters you can use to sort of draw them in, or little activities like that. So you might want to try one of these, sort of get students to check in about how they're feeling, use a different one each time, maybe ask the students if they can find ones of their own that they find funny, instead of reusing the ones that we like, especially. The scavenger hunt's a really good way to get people actually turning on their cameras, bringing things to the class, those sort of things. So these ones are just examples that work perhaps best with adults. An item you forgot to put away, a remote learning companion, something that made you smile today. You might not want to do all these at once, but these are just some ideas of things you could sort of do. You get them to post a picture, share a joke, those sort of things. This is something really useful that a colleague of mine shared about when you're away from the computer, or you're alt tabbed into some emails, or you're checking up on activities, planning a lesson, those sort of things. But you're within a class, you might want to have one of these sort of waiting screens, holding screens to get your students aware that you might not necessarily be attending fully to the meeting that you're in at that time. Might be useful for that. Personally, I really like getting students into random groups, or using this, as it says here, popsicle sticks, which is a famous Dylan Williams strategy, where you physically would write the name of each student on a popsicle stick. There's a digital version you can get on your iPhone, and in the QR code in the corner is an online version. I prefer the app because it lets you customize a little bit more. You can enter all your students, have them just sitting there ready for you. My favorite is probably calling on a student at random, and then it will speak their name out loud, and then the students know that they're going to be the one to answer there. Random number generator. So based off the earlier example, you could have your 9 images, and you could pick a random number between 1 and 9, and then you would be calling upon all of the people who said they were at a 3, perhaps, and that would be one way of calling on people, rather than doing what we know doesn't work, which is cold calling, where you sort of say, does anyone have any thoughts on that? And it doesn't actually aim at anyone in particular, so it's less likely to be effective, we feel. ClickView Interactive is really good if you've got content of your own there, or if there's a documentary up there or a film that you're studying. There's often a lot of interactives already put up there that are asking questions as the video is being watched. This is a really good way to turn your videos a little bit more interactive and to get the students actually engaging with it, rather than just passively sitting back or not watching it at all. Within Microsoft, you've got the Reflect app, which is useful for a bit of a roll call, check in on students, how they're feeling, check on how they're feeling about the last lesson, about the assignments that are coming up, those sort of things. And of course, it's anonymous, so you're the only person that can see the students' names, and they obviously can't see what each other have said. So it's useful to get a bit of a sense for the room, digital or otherwise, that you're about to join. And you might want to, call on those students down the bottom, or ask those students up the top why they're feeling so good, how things are going, what's happening in their lives. For me, it's a lot easier to there is a polling app that you can use instead, but I usually prefer to just say, here are your 3 options, type them individually, press enter each time, getting them to thumbs up, love, heart, etc. And here is an example that you could use to sort of get people into the room. And again, they can either type the number, or they could like the post for each of those options that you would pick. Quick, easy, pretty painless, and you can obviously get students to create their own as well. So create a multiple choice out of 4 from the last thing that we looked at last lesson, to get them thinking, get them retrieving the information, let's say. In Zoom, it allows everyone to annotate at once on the same screen. That's not necessarily as native or easy in different platforms. So what I like to do is I tell the students, okay, for the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to mute, turn off my camera for 5 minutes. Here's the task that you're going to do, and I want you as a class to lead it, and I'll sit there and annotate in the background. So, for example, they might say, okay, well, this in the top left-hand corner, that word's really interesting, and I'll be there annotating and writing notes on what they say, just as a way to empower what they're saying and to take a backseat role, as you would in a discussion, but it's a little bit less natural in an online setting. So this is a good way to enforce teacher listening time, and the students taking control and empowering them a little bit of student voice maybe. And last little thing, just to get people in, visual thinking strategies, the 3 questions are: what's going on, what makes you say that, and what else can you find? And so it's kind of the idea being an endless questioning cycle that you can go back to and come back through. So then they can say, what else can you find? And then that adds to their what's going on. And these are all from the New York Times, what's going on in this picture, where they post a picture without context and they ask, they have a moderated discussion so students can jump in and make guesses of what they think is happening. And then after a certain amount of time, they then reveal the answer and do that. So this is a really good way, out of context, removed from the website, posted on your own place, and saying to the students, okay, what's going on here, and getting them to sort of draw out and engage with the activities. So those are the 9 activities. We'll fly through really quickly. I would love to hear any ideas that you have for getting your students interacting in the online teaching space. And I look forward to hearing what you've got to share. Cheers.